You know what? We shouldn't even talk. Let's throw the next team off. I mean, we're done.
Why are we talking?
We're done. Talk about the next team.
Yeah,
he just had the best team.
Yeah.
I hope you'll go
Yeah.
down.
So that
Thanks for listening, guys. But
If you want to advertise with us, please give us a call.
yeah, thank you.
Whatever, man.
Goodbye.
There's some really good talent on this team.
All right.
Everybody hold on to your butts.
Hey guys, we are living in fiction, the fantasy football podcast coming to you from Crowd and Town Creative. I'm Fernie,
I'm Art.
I'm Daniel.
and we're going to talk to you a little bit of fantasy football. And I'll be honest with you guys, I'm not a fantasy football guy. I just kind of play once in a while and like look at my phone and go, "Damn, I lost again."
me.
You know, it's pretty cool. So a little bit really quick about our company. We're Crowd and Town Creative, and Art, why don't you talk to us about Crowd and Town?
So we are a social media consulting company. We do videography, photography, social media consulting. We also do audio engineering. We kind of do a little bit of everything. We have a few clients that we work for. Some are chiropractors. We also have other people in the fitness industry. But we also wanted to make sure that we had another way of reaching a lot of our followers on Instagram and Facebook. And we thought we love playing fantasy football. We love watching football. And I did this podcast by myself a few seasons back. And so we thought this would be a good opportunity for us to, another reason for us to get together and start producing content.
And also, it helps that we like each other, right, Dan?
Yeah, we love each other. Actually, I don't know why you use like.
I kind of like you sometimes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, that was love. Love is a strong word.
Strong word for you, buddy. No, not really. I love you, buddy.
And I'm Daniel, and I basically contribute nothing.
Nah.
Not good football, fantasy football. Advice, nothing.
Basically, it's like loss, an occasional win, loss, and then loss. Actually, the first year I played in Hannibal's football league, I made the playoffs. I was like, I don't even know what I'm doing.
Yeah,
I hated
that's
you
the way it
so
works.
much, man. I was so pissed off at you.
So anyway, today we're going to talk AFC. We're going to talk about sleepers. We're going to talk about who you should draft, what order you should draft in. And of course, Art is our awesome expert, and he'll walk us through a lot of this stuff. So we're going to talk AFC. We're going to start with the AFC East, and who I think is going to go to the Super Bowl this year. We're going to talk the Patriots. So Art.
So yeah, like Fernie said, it feels like everyone else is playing for second place because the Patriots decided to look at the draft and say, you know what? That's fine. It's cool. But we're just going to trade away our picks for people that we know that are good. So we'll start off talking about Brady. He is, I believe, getting drafted usually right after Aaron Rodgers. After Aaron Rodgers,
Wow.
right around, it's usually either him or Breeze that go next after Rodgers. But it's easy to make the argument for him at number one in terms of quarterbacks.
I have to ask though, Tom Brady being the age that he's at, I mean, is he still going to bring those kind of numbers for your fantasy team?
That's probably the only reason why he's behind Aaron Rodgers because in terms of history, no one has ever they kind of had an okay season and then they had a really, a bad season after that. It's like you fall off a cliff when Father Time touches you on the shoulder. Like, who was it? Peyton Manning a couple years ago. Like, just there was
there was just no
there was just a cliff.
warning, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's always a potential, but it, in true Belichick fashion, he has looked at what's happening, and he has just surrounded Brady with playmakers. So he has Brandon Cooks, who I was talking to Dan earlier. I think is probably one of the best wide receivers he's played with since Randy Moss.
Wow.
Oh man.
He's just really fast. He's got really great hands. He still has Julian Edelman. He has there's Malcolm Mitchell. There's a ton of
targets.
people. Right. There's a bunch of people, and then every running back it feels like has really good hands in that offense. So RBs is what people have a lot of questions about in terms of which RBs to go after. It's really a crapshoot. I think people are trying to figure out who's going to be the new LeGarrette Blount, who's coming off of double-digit touchdowns with the Patriots. Mm-hmm. Everyone's putting their money on Mike Gillislee. I think that's a good idea. It makes sense for him to be the first one off the board, but he hasn't even. I think he just started practicing this week. After that, it's anyone's guess. I've been reaching and I've been doing some MFL 10s for anyone who doesn't know what those are. Instead of traditional leagues where you draft and then you manage your team the entire season, you have a roster of 20 guys and you draft them and you never touch them again. And the computer every week they pick the top scorers every week. And at the end of the season, whoever has the most points wins.
Wow.
And in those leagues, whenever I get there's a certain point in the draft where it's like there's nobody. It's defenses, it's a few tight ends, some quarterbacks, and I've been reaching for like Rex Burkhead because I'm a big Bengals fan. For anybody that doesn't know, I always thought that he deserved more carries in Cincinnati, and it looks like he is perfect for this New England offense.
He looks like a beast too when he runs, man. He really does.
There was a play in the last preseason game where Brady was playing, and he just found him in the middle for a small, easy route, and he just ran it in for a touchdown.
Wow.
Yeah, last year I almost feel like every time he gets a carry, I'm like, why does this dude get more carries? He does all right.
I'm a big DFS player, and Rex Burkhead in Week 17 won me some money. Because Giovanni Bernard tore his ACL, Jeremy Hill was playing like Jeremy Hill, and they gave Rex Burkhead all the carries, and he did great. That's why he got the contract he got with the Patriots.
So a quick question for you: when I look at quarterbacks, one of the things I ask is, what does their offensive line look like? And I have to ask about the Patriots. What does their offensive line look like? Because it will determine what numbers your running back gets, what numbers Brady gets, for that matter.
Mm-hmm. I think it was a couple years ago when people were wondering about Brady. They had like a really rough start to their season. And then I think it was a Chiefs game where they just got completely annihilated. Everyone was wondering, okay, are they going to bench Brady for Garoppolo? Eventually, they moved the right pieces around on their offensive line, and they came back. And, of course, it was a game they were playing the Bengals. That's why I remember it. But they seem to have found the right group of players on the offensive line to do well. I think in terms of faults, in terms of just regular football, not fantasy football, the only place where they're weak, because they just lost one of their draft picks, is on the defensive line. But in terms of offensive line, this is probably the strongest Patriots roster we've seen since that 2007 season.
Wow. So they could go 16-0.
Easy.
Yeah.
I hope not.
In terms of wide receivers, I think right now depending on how deep your league is, the only wide receivers I'm drafting is Brandon Cooks, who is going, I believe, in the second or third round, and Julian Edelman. He's going a little bit later. I think they're both where they're getting drafted right now is a good. You're getting good value, and of course, everyone's wondering about Gronk. If there's anyone else, he's still worth a second round pick. He comes with the injury history. He recently, though, said that he realized he can't keep going out and being Gronk at night and drinking and going nuts, and so he started doing the Tom Brady diet.
Wow! So he might come back
even better.
Yeah.
He's still the best tight end in the league. So he's still worth his position. And in terms of defenses, and I shouldn't say this because both of you guys are in leagues that I play in, I've been targeting the Patriots defense in every single draft.
Oh, dude,
they're playing. Yeah. They're playing the Jets.
Yeah, lights out.
No, not. Their defense looks good. They signed Stephon Gilmore. I think that was a really good signing. They have Malcolm Butler, but they're playing the Jets twice this season. Who they're basically an expansion level team. They're playing the Bills, who looks like they're just trading away everybody, and they're playing against a Cutler-led Dolphins team. And I just think 6 games where you know for sure you're going to get some decent fantasy points on your defense is worth it.
And so I have to ask, if, say, Brady gets hurt or, Father Time comes and touches Brady on the shoulder and says, all right, man, it's time. Go home with Giselle and spend all your money and have a good time. What about Garoppolo?
I listen. I'm a big advocate of the Around the NFL podcast. They basically were saying they were looking at Garoppolo this preseason, and they said that because the rumor during this last offseason was that the Browns were going hard after Garoppolo and trying to trade for him, and they offered a couple of number 1s, a number 2, and the Patriots were like, no, we want to keep this guy. But they've been saying that if they had pulled that trade off and then saw Garoppolo this preseason, a lot of people would be asking questions like, was it worth that pick?
Yeah.
But he knows that offense, and I think even if Brady does go down, I think everybody in that team would be just fine.
All right, so that's the Patriots for you. Anything else, Dan?
I got a question for you, man.
Yes, sir.
Because a lot of people are drafting right now, or about to draft. Do you take Gronk in the second round? Because currently he's going at 19. He's going, ADP, second round at the end of it. So let's say you get, I don't know, Bell first round. Coming back around, is your next pick Gronk on the turn?
I would say if you do not love the wide receivers or running backs in that area, I think you're totally fine going. Especially if you have let's say you do have the first pick overall.
Yeah.
And you go with Bell or Johnson, and then you come back around and then get the best tight end in the league, and then match that up with maybe a really solid wide receiver one. I mean, you're starting in a really
Those
good
top
spot.
three, huh?
I mean,
yeah.
I mean, everyone is potentially injury risk. I mean, some are often more injured than others, but if you get even 8 or 9 weeks out of Gronk, that could get your season where you need to be.
Well, he's a target. He's a solid target for
Yeah.
for Tom Brady.
Yeah.
Ridiculous target.
All right, that's the Patriots. Let's move on to that Jay Cutler offense and the Dolphins.
So I'm not touching Jay Cutler. I mean, you have to be in like
You have to wonder what the Dolphins were thinking. Like,
Dude, I don't think Jay Cutler can even touch himself without breaking something, man. That dude's broken.
So their big justification for bringing Cutler was that he knew the offense, the Adam Gase offense, and that's fine. And I think it's easy to give him crap because he's been with the team all of 3 weeks, but eventually he will be an NFL level quarterback. So I think his wide receivers are going to be fine. His tight end's going to be fine. I worry about if anyone's trying to draft him as like a potential starter on their team. I know there's 2 quarterback leagues, and if you're in a 2 quarterback league and it's 16 teams, somebody's going to have Jay Cutler.
Yeah.
You just got to make sure you play him on the right weeks. But other than that, I don't think I'd be hard pressed to be in a situation where I would roll with Jay Cutler.
Would you say JJ, I mean, as a pass catcher, if you're a PPR league, JJ's coming up, Cutler's got to throw to somebody.
Yeah.
Somebody's got to catch that pass.
I am I've been listening to a lot of different analysts. I've looked at last season. I don't think he's a fluke. I know a lot of his production came on 3 200-yard games. But there wasn't the offense was still trying to get together. By the end of the season, they had kind of looked like a solid offense. I'm a believer in Jay Ajayi. I think he's gonna have a good season. I think he has solid hands. He's not like a Darren Sproles type, but I think he would do just fine. I think he's a solid RB1.
And dude, I guess I'm just picturing game flow, and I'm picturing like just the check down. Jay Cutler not being fully comfortable checking down. Jay Ajayi's there, and it's just like either he's pounding it in or he's catching that pass.
Yeah, I think that's what I think. He's very well suited for the Adam Gase offense. I think the biggest effect that Cutler had was on the wide receivers because everyone was all aboard Jarvis Landry because he was easy for 100 targets and receptions. But in terms of Jay Cutler, he's always leaned towards the big wide receiver. He had Brandon Marshall, then he had Alshon Jeffrey, and at least in the last preseason game, he was all about Devontae Parker. I think it's hard to make any kind of indication of what. I think at a certain point they're all kind of averaging out. Jarvis Landry and Devontae Parker. I think it's really who you really think is going to be the person, the best wide receiver to take. I would lean towards Devontae Parker. I know Jarvis Landry is the more established wide receiver, but my own personal, I'd rather get the value of Devontae Parker a couple rounds later. And if you're in a really deep league, I like Kenny Stills. He's the fastest wide receiver on that team. And Cutler just does not give a crap about anything, and he will just throw that ball down the field.
There's Kenny.
And there's Kenny Stills.
and then just close his
I
eyes.
think Kenny. I bet
butt.
you if
Pray.
I'm going to say like this time next year, I'm going to say, man, how many times did I play Kenny Stills in daily fantasy because I thought he's just going to catch a 60-yard bomb. That would be it.
And he has to be super cheap. You just start with him.
That's
See
it.
how much money you have left.
Yeah,
And then-
that's a good.
That is a good
And then
strategy.
and then tight ends. I think they brought Julius Thomas back in that trade with the Jaguars. I think it's hard to trust him after he went to the Jaguars and did absolutely nothing.
No.
Adam Gase does love using his tight ends. I think he's an easy dart throw, but I think I'd rather wait and see if anything comes to fruition like during the season. But I don't think he's draftable right now.
I feel like the Julius Thomas train has just passed for me, man. You know, it's tough to trust him. I'd have to see something for a solid like 2 weeks straight.
I think that's it. I think there's a small group of players where it's like you have to wait first 2-3 weeks of the season and see if you want to believe and then pick them up.
Oh, and he was great too, man.
Yeah.
I loved playing that dude. Back in the Broncos.
So I have to ask the Dolphins in the rundown. We don't even have the defense on here, so don't even bother touching it.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Don't even. I mean, even if they're on the board, you're just like, I know it. Like, you know, sometimes I go, I'll look at the board and say, oh, the Dolphins, man. I like their uniform.
Yeah, right.
Screw it. I'm like last on this pick. I'm just gonna pick them. Screw it. But
although the Jets might be completely matchup proof, right? I mean, you could probably play the Dolphins defense against them.
Yeah.
Whenever.
Every
offense,
every season there's always that one team. Last year was the Browns.
Maybe
this year
put them on your bench.
Usually the Jets.
Maybe that particular week you're
That's the only reason. Yeah, I was gonna say it's the only reason to get the Bills or the Dolphins defense is because they're playing the Jets.
And they're playing the Jets, and
twice.
There you go. All right.
There it is.
So I do have to apologize in advance if my boss is listening. Daniel, I'm sorry, but the Dolphins suck this year.
Fired. You're fired. You're fired.
Hey man, you got this sound effects thing, and you haven't done anything with it.
I haven't done shit. Here you go. If you're listening,
You are one pathetic loser.
That's about right. All right.
All right, man.
Speaking of losers, let's talk about the Bills.
Let's talk about the Bills. Tell me about the Bills.
I still, everyone was. I love Tyrod Taylor. I think he's like a really good value quarterback. I liked him much better before they traded away Sammy Watkins. But I think even with Jordan Matthews, Zay Jones, and Charles Clay, especially with LaShawn McCoy, I think he'll be just fine. He gets most of his production from his legs and his running abilities. So I still think Tyrod Taylor is a good, like, if you're one of those late round QB drafters, I think if you pair him up with someone like Carson Wentz or Sam Bradford, even, I think you're fine.
Right.
oh yeah, man.
What does their offensive line look like? I mean, just
they're going to be a lot better off whenever Cordy Glenn gets back. I think he's still working his way back into to practice. Their offensive line is fine. Yeah. It's really well suited for LaShawn McCoy.
And that's a real question.
I was going to say that's the star of their offense right now. I think the only people that you really are targeting in a draft will be obviously LaShawn McCoy. He's still probably the third best running back in the league right now, behind Le'Veon Bell and David Johnson, and Jordan Matthews. Those are the only two people for sure I'd target in drafts. I like Tyrod Taylor, and then Charles Clay. I think he might be the biggest benefactor of Sammy Watkins getting traded away. I've always liked his game. I think they definitely overpaid for him when Rex Ryan was there. But I think Charles Clay is a really good athlete. He's really fast. He's got steady hands. I think he is worth a dart throw at the end if you didn't draft any good tight ends.
Wow.
Can I tell you why I love Tyrod?
Tell me.
I mean, if you look at the ADP right now on ESPN, he's going after Carson Palmer, before Joe Flacco, Jay Cutler, Alex Smith. I mean, we've placed him. People are drafting him at the absolute bottom. Wow. And you have to think that he has this floor. He has such a high floor because of his running. You're guaranteed at least, 30 to 40 yards?
Yeah.
Maybe 50?
Yeah.
Easily. Just running. And that's not even including the passing.
And
you can get
he's got a solid offensive line in front of him.
I mean, he's definitely the analyst I'm thinking of is JJ Zachariason. He goes by the handle on Twitter, late round QB. He is the perfect person that talks about, like, there is so much value at the other positions, and there are, as long as if he's big on streaming quarterbacks every single week. Yeah. But Tyrod Taylor gives you the safest floor, like 10 to 12 points every single week, and there are some weeks where he's going to give you like 20, 25 points. And so if all you need is double digits from your quarterback because you drafted so well at all the other positions, I think Tyrod's great.
All right. So that's the Buffalo Bills. We're not even going to bother talking about their defense.
No.
It's just not even worth your time.
Nope.
It's it
It'll
could be
again,
it could come
stream them when they're playing the
Jets. Just like I got the Bills. They're going up against the Jets, and that's going to happen. And that brings me to our
last
next
team left.
Yeah, the Jets on the AFC East.
I wish you guys could see this on our sheet. It says, "Is anyone draftable?" Question mark.
There's a big giant question mark there. Like, the Jets are a train wreck. What happened?
Like, really poor drafting. I feel like they had I think it was 2 years ago when they went 10-6 with Todd Bowles. It was his first year. He was just coming off being the defensive coordinator for the Cardinals. I even had really high hopes for them. And so he pieced together some free agents. It looked like they did really well. I mean, with Ryan Fitzpatrick, they had that 10-6 season. And then everybody started falling off. Fitzpatrick had that holdout with his contract. They decided to go old at running back with Matt Forte. Then this offseason, everyone's saying they are having a season. They're calling it Scam for Sam because Sam Darnold is one of the best quarterbacks that potentially might enter the draft next year. But they're clearly playing for 2018 and beyond. And so they decided to trade away Brandon Marshall, Eric Decker, and they're rolling, I don't know which jabroni out there at quarterback, but it's going to be bad.
Do you think they told Fitzpatrick, like, hey, you can't sign this contract until you say you will not throw more than 5 interceptions in one game? So you know what? I can't guarantee that.
That's probably why that's why he was like, I'm going to go to the Bills because they're not telling me
We've got to talk about this because I cannot.
Like, if I'm the Jets and I'm seeing everybody that's in my division, including the Patriots, I'm like, well, we can lose everything this season and then get us some solid draft picks.
Yeah. And it's hard because, everyone talks about the New York fan base, so I get why it's more difficult for them to do that. But, I mean, if you look at the Browns, there's a good chance the Browns are not the worst team in their division.
Right. Oh, dude.
They look really solid, and if they landed on their quarterback, then that's all that matters.
That's all that matters.
And so if that's what the Jets are doing, that's fine. But in terms of what you're doing in fantasy, I think Bilal Powell is the only one I'm drafting at all. I've seen Matt Forte last into like the 13th, 14th round in some drafts because people he's been hurt. He's old.
He's old. How old is he now?
I think he's 31.
Yeah.
You round that up to at least 60.
Yeah.
I mean,
in running back years, that's about 62.
Come on.
He's gone past his half-life.
And so Bilal Powell's the only one I'm drafting. If you're looking for dart throws, if you're in a deep league, I like, in terms of if there's any wide receiver, I know some people like their rookie, Ardarius Stewart, but I like Roby Anderson because he's actually been there before. And another kind of wait-and-see tight end is Austin Seferian-Jenkins. He looked really good with the Bucks, and then he had that
really did.
And then he had that trouble. I think he got caught with, like, drinking and driving, or I forgot what the incident was, but apparently he's completely clean, completely given up alcohol, and they've been ranting and raving about him.
It's his third year, right? I had been watching him since he came in. Yeah, I really liked him.
I think if they start Josh McCown or Bryce Petty, there's a potential that Austin Seferian-Jenkins could potentially be worth maybe streaming or as like a tight end too.
He's a huge target,
but
man.
There's literally no one else to draft. And what sucks is, like, if they were even remotely competent on offense, their defense would be worth drafting because their front seven on defense is ridiculous. You just see Muhammad Wilkerson, Sheldon Richardson, and Leonard Williams, and they are just like terrorizing quarterbacks, but it's like all for nothing.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a lot of people talking about how they could very easily have, even though it seems like they're trying to have like the worst record in the league, that even just based on how good their defense is, just based on how good their defense is, they might find their way into a few like 10-7 victories.
And you know what's cool about that now on ESPN? I don't know if you heard, but they don't count anymore towards the other defense scoring against. So they could be.
Oh yeah, so that's a new thing on ESPN scoring. So if typically you get certain points if your defense allows the other team to score, but if let's say you have the Patriots defense. But while the Patriots' offense is on the field, if they throw an interception and it gets taken back for a touchdown, it doesn't count against your team. Yeah, so that's cool.
Right. Yeah. All right, so that's the AFC East. We're going to take a little break. This is normally where we would insert sponsors.
So sponsors.
If you guys are out there and want to be sponsored,
let's do it.
We will take you on. You get a hold of me. You get a hold of Art. You get a hold of Dan. You can find us online. You can find us on Instagram.
You can find our website, crowdtoncreative.com.
Excellent. You can find us there. You can find our emails. Guys, you want to have your brand on
It's only a matter of time before we blow up. So, it's going to be like Pod Save America, but just, football.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. And just to add on to that, a year later, you're going to be looking back, and we're going to tell you,
you blew it!
So we're going to take a little break. We'll be back. Got to entertain some people.
It's because I don't know what drops. Look, what is this?
One of you turds is about to get smacked in the mouth.
Okay.
You got it.
What's Bridesmaids Lava?
Let's
coming out of me like when she's sitting on the
Oh, we
fucking
just
sink.
taking it. That's right. That's right.
Hey, do we come back to the song again or just go?
We could just say like,
We just come back to dun, dun, dun.
pop. Yeah.
Well, you can
I'll
put
play
it in
it.
post. Yeah, put it in post. All right, go. All right, guys, we're back.
Hey.
This again would be the place where you would insert the commercials.
Sponsors.
Sponsor.
They just happened. It just
They
happened.
just happened. Like you can even work a deal. Like if you run a restaurant and you know it's a local restaurant, and you want to give us like free food, we'll take the free food.
take free food.
Sounds,
Yeah.
It sounds so good.
We will take the free food or coffee or basically
Yeah.
anything for free. Like,
Yeah.
So anyway,
And if your food's real good, I'll still pay for it.
okay.
Let's be real now.
Let's just be honest. Like if you're like the Crave owners and stuff, I'm gonna take your free food. Like you can pay me in food. Like
Give
those.
me that green mac and cheese. Dude, we're call it even.
Yeah. Like the breakfast burger there is amazing. Amazing. Like so amazing that I would probably get a heart attack if I were to eat it again.
You want to know how ridiculous I am? How ridiculous they are. Dude, I order the oatmeal for breakfast. That's how good it is.
Yeah, it is.
Everything is
Everything
good.
there is
Like,
good.
everything's good, and I still order the oatmeal.
So anyway, this is where you put in your 2 cents. So guys, if you're out there listening and you want to advertise, we'll work something out. Anyway. Oh, excuse me. Let's talk about the AFC West.
All right, we'll start with the Broncos.
Hey, Art, you got to go fast though, because
Yeah,
Dan was
apparently
like,
Dan told me
Yeah, I
that.
already told I,
The time
guys,
not
Apparently-
over
okay,
here.
so I
if
did not.
anybody's still listening,
If anyone's
30
still
minutes
listening, I
later.
did not realize we did 30 minutes on
Shit.
just the damn AFC East.
I was watching the clock
so-
the whole time.
Yeah, so we'll try to speed it up for you. But hey, your draft, if you're smart, you're not drafting until another couple weeks or another week at least after Labor Day. But anyway,
I don't know why he said that. His draft is tomorrow.
I was just gonna say my draft is Saturday. I got another one Sunday. Anyway, hopefully
liar.
this will get out to you soon.
Oh, I got
Alright.
a liar one right here. Wait.
Defeated.
Oh, that was wrong. That's from Liar.
That's from
I
Liar.
read that wrong.
Dan
I
doesn't
read
know
that
what he's doing.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
he's doing. So
So,
tell
yeah,
me about the
okay.
Quarterbacks. Are
Quarterbacks. Trevor Siemian
yeah.
won the battle. He's going to be the quarterback. They already came out and said it. He is only draftable in 2 quarterback leagues, or if you're going to stream him during the regular season when he has a good matchup. But that's about as far as that goes. RBs are much more interesting to me. CJ Anderson has a potential. We've seen him be really productive in Denver before. I also don't mind if you're going to wait a little bit later and getting D'Angelo Henderson. He's looked really good in the preseason. I think he has a shot of winning depending on how much of a shot they actually give him. So in terms of my own personal preference, I totally understand drafting CJ Anderson. For me, I'd rather go with someone else at that point in the draft. I like D'Angelo Henderson. Wide receivers, Dan and I were talking about this earlier. There are some people avoiding Demaryius Thomas because Trevor Siemian's his quarterback, which is stupid. Demaryius Thomas has been a 1,000-yard receiver with Tebow, with I'm forgetting the guy's name. He had a beard.
He is the man.
he racks up 1,000-yard seasons. So draft Demaryius Thomas. He was Orton.
Yeah.
Kyle?
Oh, yeah, Kyle Orton.
Oh,
Yeah.
my
I was about to
God.
call him Randy Orton. Kyle Orton.
Is that the guy that signed our hats?
That's the
Yeah.
dude.
Preseason.
Yeah,
signed our hats.
That's awesome.
Threw it
Anyway,
away. It's threw it away right
Just
away.
threw it right away.
Get the heck out.
I was like, where's Tebow? Anyway,
Tebow's
Demaryius.
playing for the Mets.
I know. I saw
Or
that.
actually the Mets farm team.
I just saw him get pegged in the head
Yeah.
last week. It was ugly. And he gave him a look like, hey, you're lucky I love Jesus. Otherwise, I'd be walking over.
You'd be on the floor.
You look
Anyways,
at my head is this big. I didn't even feel it.
Anyway, Demaryius Thomas is totally draftable. Emmanuel Sanders, same. I mean, Simeon is a competent quarterback. He'll be able to get the ball to them. Tight ends, I don't believe in anybody there. I like AJ Derby. I know they traded for him. I just don't know if there's anyone there worth drafting at the moment. He's another one of that whole position with the Broncos is a wait and see. And of course, you just heard my Google Hangouts go off on my laptop. So I'll shut that off in a minute.
Please? Can we get this on airplane? Airplane.
And the Broncos defense. Come on. Draft the Broncos defense. They're the number 1 defense off the board. They've lost a few pieces, but they still have easily the best cornerback tandem in the league. And that's what you want is turnovers. So that's the Broncos.
Yeah, that's the Broncos. All right, let's go ahead and move on. Before I do move on, I do have a question about the Broncos. Anyone picking them? maybe second, third, fourth? What are you guys thinking as far as playoff implications?
I
Just
would
as a team.
not be shocked if they were the fourth best team in that division.
Yeah.
I just think the other three teams have done so much in the offseason. The only thing holding the Chargers back, I don't know who's in charge of their medical team, but they're terrible. And they constantly keep losing players.
And I do like talking teams. I do like, where everything fits. So every now and again, I'll ask that question just because I'm curious and I want to know.
I do think, just like the Patriots, not as much as the Patriots, they are one of those few teams that's just the total package as far as offense, defense, special teams. They do have it.
Yeah. That's awesome. All right, let's move on to the Chiefs. Talk to us about the Chiefs.
All right. Alex Smith, he's going surprisingly late, and I think it's because people worry that at some point in the season, if their season doesn't go the way people intend, that they'll pull in for Patrick Mahomes, who's looked really good this preseason.
Hey, he's Mahomes.
Is there a button for that? I know. Is there a button?
That will definitely be a drop. I like Mahomes a lot. I don't think he's going to start the season unless there's an injury or unless their season really just gets off the rails. RBs is where I'm really interested in. A lot of people love Spencer Ware. I think he's a good value for where he's going. But boy, Kareem Hunt has looked real good this preseason. I've been reaching a little bit for him in drafts. I like him a lot. Sharkhandrick West I think he still looks really productive. He did really good in the second preseason game. But he might be a cut candidate or for some of these teams that really need help at running back, like the Ravens. He's a potential person that might end up with a different team. Wide receivers, it's Tyreek Hill, and there's really nobody else. I think Chris Conley has always looked good. He's like 6'3", runs like a 4.3 or 4.4 40.
Yeah.
He looks really good, but there's no one else there that I'm reaching for. It's Tyreek Hill in the second or third round. Actually, I think it's the third or fourth round. And that's it. The only other pass catcher there, of course, is Kelsey. I think it's Hill and Kelsey. You're fine. Where they're going in drafts is perfect. They're absolutely worth it. I know people think Kelsey has a little bit more of a ceiling or a lower ceiling than other tight ends like Jordan Reed and Gronk, but I still think there's a lot of potential for him to even be better than he's been the last couple seasons. And their defense always looks solid. So,
Wow. To your Hunt point, people are taking Hunt right after Doug Martin in ESPN. I mean, that's 11th round.
Yeah,
I'm taking him.
That's a really good value. I think if you look at all the RBs in that range, they're all people that have potential to take over at some point in the season. You have no idea what kind of potential they have. They may end up only sharing carries, but there's a lot of players in that round or in that area, like 10 to 12, 10 to 13, where they potentially could be like a league winner for you.
We've seen that lead back on the Chiefs just destroy.
Absolutely.
And I mean, win you weeks. If you had, what was his name last year?
It was Spencer Ware.
Spencer Ware. If you had
last year.
Ware, you were winning those first few weeks.
And then 2 years ago is now Davis.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's a lot of potential on that team. I think it's really going to come down to Ware, Hunt, Hill, and Kelsey.
All right. So how do we feel about the Chiefs overall as a team?
I think they're going to be good. I think they have a solid defense, a solid offense. Again, it's all going to fall on Smith. And a lot of people talked about the fact that they always talk about Smith as a game manager. He's not like a really risk too much quarterback. But the fact that he knows now there's this young kid who loves throwing the deep ball and is exciting might push him more as a quarterback.
Wow.
Once he got that first touchdown, kept throwing him.
That's it.
That's all he needed.
All right. So let's move on to the Raiders, who I think I was living under a rock and didn't realize they're in Las Vegas now.
I think they still have. So they're building a stadium, and they're somehow telling their fans, "Hey, still come here, even though we sold out and are going somewhere else."
Yeah.
So they're still playing in Oakland, which should be super awkward. It's like breaking up with the girlfriend you live with, but then you still live with her for like 2 years.
Which none of us have ever done.
Yeah.
No.
Right. No. Anyway, so Derek Carr.
No. Huge disclaimer. So you guys know that. I mean, you guys might as well call me Bandwagon Dan. I mean, I'm just all over. Every year I got a new team.
Yeah. Well, a couple years ago it was the Seahawks.
It's okay.
And then it was the Panthers.
Last year, easily, I was the Cowboys fan for the first time in my life.
Nice.
This year,
I have a jersey for you, buddy.
There you go.
I got my Des Bryant jersey.
All right.
I like it.
I like it.
I'm a Raiders fan, man.
That's it?
Yeah.
I'm getting a Raiders jersey.
Because of
I'm getting
Marshawn.
That combination of Derek Carr and Marshawn Lynch is going to be insane.
And the other thing is, like, I think people always talk about the Dallas offensive line. The Raiders actually might have the best line in the league.
You know, I have to agree with you there, especially with some of the trades that Dallas made in the offseason. It hurts me. It hurts me so bad.
Yeah, they let some guys walk,
Yeah,
but I
they
think
let
they'll
some
be
guys
okay.
go.
But the Raiders definitely have the best line. Carr, I mean, there's no question he's gotten better every single year he's been around.
Look, if there's a team in the AFC, and I don't really follow the AFC, but if there's a team in the AFC that I'm going to want to overthrow the Patriots, it's going to be the Raiders.
Yeah, everyone's talked about it last
Yeah.
season. If Carr hadn't gotten hurt, broken his leg,
You have a good chance because, man, they looked good last season. Yeah.
so outside of Carr, Lynch, I saw 2 carries in the preseason game last week, and he looked like good old Marshawn.
No, that's
Oh,
great.
man.
I just did an MFL 10 where I went wide receiver and tight end in my first 5 rounds and still ended up with 3 or 4 rounds. And then Marshawn was my RB1, and I'm totally fine with that. If you decide to go, wide receiver heavy in a draft, like if you're doing PPR or something.
You have to imagine. I mean, all players, going just season to season. Who knows if they're ever really at 100%? This dude just had a year off. 100%.
Yeah.
He's ready.
And a big reason why is I think he's from the area. He wants to bring a Super Bowl to that town before they move to Vegas. I just think he's in a really good spot with a really good O-line. If he was able to do what he did in Seattle, not 2 years ago when he had kind of off season, but the year before that with their kind of piecemeal offensive line, I mean, it's only I just can't imagine what he'll be able to do with that line. Yeah. And in terms of their wide receivers, Amari Cooper still, I think, is solid. Low in wide receiver 1, high in wide receiver 2. Michael Crabtree's still going to be super reliable.
What about the argument about, Cooper getting the best corner, so you'd prefer Crabtree? Do you feel that way?
I totally buy it. I think if there is someone else you love at the time when in the part of the draft when you're getting, do you have that in front of you right now? The ADP for
Let me see.
let's see. Look for Amari Cooper. Tell me where he's going.
I'm gonna end up being the laptop guy, huh?
I think so.
You are, yes.
You got the laptop.
Can you
You
get
have the
fast-
laptop in
Can you
front of
get faster than him, please? Because I can't.
I'll work on it.
come on.
I'll work on it.
Amari Cooper, second round, ADP 20.
What are
22.
the other wide receivers around him?
Right before him, it's Des Bryant, T. Hilton. Right after him, Doug Baldwin, Brandon Cooks. I mean,
So again,
almost
so
would
like
prefer.
if I'm in that area, personally, I'd rather take Brandon Cooks. I think Des Bryant, his schedule scares me a little bit, but I mean it's Des Bryant. But I think if I'm in that position, I personally would go Brandon Cooks and then later take a chance on Michael Crabtree because Crabtree's still going to get those touchdowns.
he's just one round later.
And then he's a solid target.
Yeah.
He really is.
Everyone hates Jared Cook because he always showed so much potential everywhere he went and never did anything except for that one play against the Cowboys, which is probably why Fernie hates Jared Cook.
My God.
But like Derek Carr is not a quarterback that latches onto one receiver. He really spreads it around, and I think Jared Cook could be a benefactor in that.
Let me ask you some draft situational questions because these could happen.
Yes, sir.
You're going RB1. You first round RB. Let's say you get a chance at David Johnson, right? Lev Bell. Coming back around, you have a chance at Michael Crabtree. Do you get him? Is he your
Amari
wide
Cooper.
receiver 1? If you are in the top 5, because he's going right now he's going at 22. Yeah, so I guess you could get Amari Cooper. Is he your wide receiver 1?
I think I'd be okay with him as my wide receiver 1. He's also been one of those players that has put up 1,000 yards his first 2 years in the league. And he's growing with his quarterback, I think the same way that A.J. Green and Andy Dalton did. And I think Derek Carr is better than Andy Dalton. So I think I would have no issue with Amari Cooper as my number 1, especially if David Johnson's my RB1.
How about the other way around? You get, Antonio Brown.
Okay.
4th pick. Coming back around, Marshawn Lynch. You all right with him being your RB1?
Totally fine with that.
All right.
Totally fine.
All
with that.
right.
All right, so
There it
here's the
is.
thing. It's on the record. Like, you're being recorded right now.
I know.
So if Marshawn Lynch gets
I was
hurt
just going
week
to say.
2,
I should say it.
Yeah.
I'm glad you brought that up because I know handcuffing isn't as big anymore. People are just saying just grab RBs that you could fill in. I really like DeAndre Washington. So if you get Marshawn Lynch and you're hitting the end of your draft and there's really not anybody you love, just make sure you grab DeAndre Washington. I think he'd still make. I still think he'd be the lead back. He'd share with Jalen Richard, but I like DeAndre Washington.
I loved what I saw last year. He was the man.
Yeah, and do not touch the Raiders defense because they just made Jared Goff look like the second coming of Aaron Rodgers.
All right, moving on. Let's go to the Chargers. Talk to me about the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah, it still sounds weird. It is all about health for them. And I was just talking to you guys. I don't know what's going on with their medical team. I don't know who's in charge. The whole team needs to get fired. Rivers. I'll say this: if you wait on quarterback, I love taking Rivers late. He's always solid. I think his interceptions are going to go down. His touchdowns will go up. Melvin Gordon looks really solid, even though he's got really skinny calves. Brandon Oliver is the backup right now. It looks like if you're looking to handcuff him. Wide receivers is the tough part for me because I love Keenan Allen. I think he is one of the best route runners in the entire league.
Love that dude.
But he has just gotten these crazy injuries. I mean, he had a lacerated kidney or liver a few years back.
Man, don't even remind me.
Last year, he blew his knee out in like the first game of the season. I mean, he just had some really bad luck, and I think that's what it might be is just bad luck.
But that's
I
how
like
good
where
that
he's
is.
at.
Oh man,
so where he, I think he's going as like a potentially he could be your wide receiver 1. I think he's mostly going as like a wide receiver 2, depending on when you're drafting. If you're going wide receiver. I like him better as a wide receiver 2, just given the risk. But if you're not getting him, I do not mind waiting and getting Tyrell Williams. He looked really good last year. He's a big wide receiver.
Huge target.
Yeah, and he runs like a gazelle, just really natural movement. It's crazy. I really like him.
Yeah,
I like when Art makes references to gazelles. I don't know why.
I'm just saying. That's what they call him, Tyrell the Gazelle, man.
My man.
That's awesome.
He looks good. And then tight ends. Everyone's wondering what to do with tight ends. I think it's crazy to think Hunter Henry's going to get the same number of touchdowns he got last year. It was kind of crazy, especially for a rookie. But apparently, word out of camp is that Phillip Rivers really trusts him in the end zone, and that's huge for Phillip Rivers. So I'm fine where he's getting drafted. I think Antonio Gates isn't going anywhere. I think he'll break the record for touchdowns to a tight end this year. But I am totally fine with where Hunter Henry's getting drafted.
So you would draft Henry over Gates?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, on record.
On record. No problem with that.
No problem with that.
It almost looks like Gates isn't even being drafted.
Yeah, Gates isn't even being drafted.
Yeah.
Guys, listen, this is what's going to be fun about this podcast is that we're going to be able to go back and play back some of these guarantees week 2 and week 3.
Art sounds all smart right now, but
Yeah.
you know,
It's only a matter of time.
yeah, no, damn.
And then week 5, he's like, man, guys, I've lost all my money.
It's going to be...
But you know, going back on
I'll trade.
Keenan Allen, whoever was lucky enough, what was it, 3 years ago,
3 years ago,
to have Keenan Allen on your team, and you remember that, and you think, man, whenever this dude gets back, I've got to have him on my team again. He's just that potential.
I think it was 2 years ago when he was when he had that lacerated kidney. He was on pace for like the most number of targets in
Oh
a
my
season.
God.
It was crazy.
He's amazing.
And defense, the AFC West has one of the most difficult schedules this year. So if it wasn't for that, I'd be much higher on the Chargers defense, but I think they're going to be a really nice defense. If you're one of those people that like, I only get a defense in like the last 2 rounds right before my kicker, with Melvin Ingram and Joey Bosa, and then the 2 the 2 cornerbacks they have a really, really solid defense.
All right. So, Chargers as a whole, how do we feel about the Chargers as a whole?
Again, barring health, they're the second best team.
Yeah.
Second best team in that division.
Over the Chiefs?
Over the I like them over the Chiefs.
Because I got Raiders.
Raiders, Chargers, Chiefs, Broncos. That's my
Wow.
personal.
So
right.
we're gonna power through here, guys.
All right,
We're gonna
let's
go AFC South. Let's talk about the Colts. And I see here on the rundown, Andrew Luck is an injury concern.
Big time. They still are not sure if he'll be ready week 1. There are rumors he won't start until week 3. And I don't even know if he's throwing any yet. Like he is just not draftable for me at any position. Like at any point in the draft. For me, there's some players that like think you hit a certain point, you're getting value, and I totally get drafting him at that point for some people.
So
but for me, I'd rather have a quarterback that I can rely on.
I do have to ask about Andrew Luck. At what point is the bottom for him? Like, at what point are we talking about Father Time coming up to him saying, "Hey"?
I mean, he's still
That sucks.
super
He's
young.
so young,
He's
yeah.
super young.
That sucks.
But if this was a movie, it'd be very easy for him to file a lawsuit against Ryan Grigson for causing like millions of dollars of losses. I mean, granted, he's a millionaire at this point because he signed that huge contract, but Ryan Grigson as a GM lucked into luck as a first pick.
Right.
Had a really solid first draft where he got T.Y. Hilton, Kobe Fleener. Jeez. I mean, he got a ton of really good players and then did absolutely nothing for the next 3 years. And so they're trying to build everything back up again, but they did such a poor job in addressing their own line that luck just got destroyed. And so now they're just hoping that he's back to the way he was. Because if that line holds up, which their center just had surgery, he's going to be out for the first 3 or 4 weeks of the season.
Wow.
I mean, I'm very worried about the Colts. I'm at a point now where I love Dante Moncrief, but I've been avoiding Dante Moncrief.
Yeah, of course.
The only person I've been drafting, I totally get going for T.Y. Hilton because he's one of those players where it's doesn't matter who his quarterback is, he'll figure it out.
Yeah, catches.
But super late in drafts, I like the rookie behind Frank Gore and Robert Turbin. His name's Marlon Mack. I think he looks really good. Really? They've been needing a young person behind that line and in that offense, and I like Marlon Mack. But
how dare you not believe in Frank Gore?
Everyone's waiting for him to just cave in, but he's not going anywhere. But I think,
dude, he's like Mayweather. Like you can't bet against that dude. You can't put a round on it.
At some point, I think at the very least they'll split carries. So I think he's a good investment late, especially again like in MFL 10s or in deeper leagues. He's a really good dart throw in case something does happen to Gore, unless in case Gore goes out there and doesn't do anything. I think he has the best chance of taking that job more than anybody else.
One more situational question involving luck, because this is a personal question. I'm in a keeper league, right? Mm-hmm. So 2 years ago, having Andrew Luck on there, oh my god, dude. This year, I'm picking between. I have 3 keepers to keep: RB1, RB2. RB1, wide receiver 1, and the next is up in the air, and Luck is obviously in consideration. Do you keep Luck? Do you maybe drop him to draft? I don't know. Anyone else is on the table? Because
I probably wouldn't hold. That's tough, dude. If it was a dynasty league, I'd say hold on to him. Keeper's a little bit different. I have no issue with people holding on to Luck. I just never liked him getting into the season personally. I just think he looks real full of himself, and it sounds like he's got a tablespoon of peanut butter stuck in his throat when he talks. But so it's easy for me to just drop Luck and yeah. But I totally get holding on to him.
I see. All right.
So how do we feel about the Colts? We're kind of shaky on the Colts.
Right, I think they're easily right now the worst team in that division.
Wow, that's crazy. So let's talk about the Jaguars. The first thing I see here is quarterback situation. Talk to me about that.
Chad Henne started the game tonight, and I don't know how he did. I'm not paying attention right now. But either way, I don't think either of them are very good at all. I think Henne is a little bit more stable. I think they're a prime candidate if they were smart enough. They'd bring in somebody like a Kaepernick or, you have so much talent on that team with both Allen Robinson, Allen Hurns, with Leonard Fournette, with that. Their defense is incredible. On paper, it might be one of the best in the league, if not the best. They just need a good quarterback. And if I were them, I'd be calling the Bengals, asking about A.J. McCarron. I'd be looking for anybody else because they're that close to being one of the best teams in the league. So as it stands right now, neither one of their quarterbacks are draftable, even in 2 quarterback leagues. Make sure you get another quarterback before you end up stuck with them. Running backs, I'm a little concerned. I was all about Leonard Fournette. I started my MFL 10s last week, and I got him on 2 of those leagues. His foot's been bothering him, and it's the same foot that bothered him in college as last year at LSU, but I still think he's worth the investment. I think he'll be okay. They're going to probably rest him until the beginning of the season. Wide receiver, I love Allen Robinson. I still think he will get his fair share of targets, but it's hard to trust him after how bad he was last year.
Ooh, really hard. Is that going to be a drop too?
Yeah.
We should get a That's What She Said on there. Come on. How was Michael Scott not on there?
Yeah, that's true. Boy. But yeah, I think Allen Hurns is still a really good investment. People are talking about actually Marquise Lee taking over as a wide receiver too, and that they could potentially try to trade Allen Hurns to a team that needs a wide receiver.
I can't imagine Allen Hurns down the Jags.
Especially because he got that extension.
Yeah.
I just don't see it happening. But yeah, in terms of their tight end, I don't see anybody on there that's worth drafting right now.
you always talk about the recency bias, and I hate that I'm avoiding Allen Robinson because of how bad it was last year. Because I invested so much in that dude. Trade for that guy, and I just
and what happened?
lost.
So
I
bad.
got second
So
place in,
bad.
in like 4 leagues, and he was on 2 of those teams.
Yeah.
I mean,
He was really
awful.
bad, but I think there's still a potential for him. I mean, he's a really, in terms of comps, in comparisons, people were comparing him to Des Bryant in terms of his talent and ability. So it's just a matter if you can get a quarterback that can get him the ball. And right now, it seems like Henny might be the best bet. So
So I'm going to address the elephant in the room, since we do have a quarterback situation that just to talk about it. If you're the Jaguars, take your chance on Colin Kaepernick, maybe.
I absolutely would do that.
Yeah.
Another big podcast I'm a big fan of is the Dave Dameshek football program, and I like the way he frames it. He's like, you have put together on paper and through the draft, because of how bad you've been and how early your draft picks have been, on paper, one of the best rosters on offense and defense. The offensive line's a little bit shaky, but aside from that, you have arguably the best cornerbacks, a solid line, really good linebackers, really good receivers. You have one of the best young running backs, and they're all hamstrung because of how bad your quarterback is. We saw that Colin Kaepernick was at least capable last season.
Right.
Like, why not? Why not try?
take a
If
chance.
it's not Kaepernick, there's plenty. I feel like there's at least 2 or 3 backup quarterbacks I would trade for, even this late in the season, to try to get acclimated and throw them in there. Right. Maybe you lose the first 3 games, but then you potentially, because that division is so tight, especially with the Colts and Andrew Luck.
Sorry.
Easy.
Yeah, go on.
Easy.
Michael Scott,
Easy. I know.
can I search on you?
I'm sorry.
This is gonna get real
sorry,
nasty
guys.
real quick.
But that
Lord.
division is just, in terms of talent, they're all equally talented in different
There you
ways.
go, equally talented.
There you
That's
go.
how you gotta use
That's
it. Come on
better.
now.
That's much
That's
better.
better.
That's much better. But I just think you
That's something you can put on social media. Like, hey, I'm looking for equally talented. Just
Yeah,
equal talent. Oh,
all around equal talent. Jeez.
But I think the way Dave Dameshek phrases it, you owe it to your fans, if nobody else, to get a quarterback that's competent enough to lead them to some games, some wins.
At least, a 8-8 team. Good Lord.
Something,
I mean,
yeah.
they're capable of that. From what it sounds like. to me.
Absolutely.
They're capable of it.
Yeah. I mean, if their QB situation wasn't so bad, I think people would be higher on their defense. Because their defense on paper, like I said, it really looks amazing. Wow.
who is their tight end, by the way?
I literally had to look that up right now.
Yeah, who is that?
Mercedes Lewis, I think, is their backup, and they brought Michael Rivera in from who used to be with the Raiders.
McHale, right? Something like that.
Yeah, so
All right.
All right. So let's move on to the Titans and Marcus Mariota.
I love Marcus Mariota.
Love
I don't think anyone doesn't like Marcus.
Yeah,
He-
so
this
good.
this preseason he's playing, like the last game I saw, he was playing without Eric Decker, without their I think 5th overall the first overall
Whoa.
pick.
No.
Being real mean over here.
Hell.
Their 5th overall pick, Corey Davis. He was throwing it to some guy who I really like. His name is Trey McBride, and I forgot who else he was throwing it to, and he looked really good. I am all about Mariota this year.
Love that guy,
I think he looks
man.
really good. Running backs, I think DeMarco Murray's still dealing with a hamstring injury, but I think he's on the mend and should be. I don't know if he's going to play at all this next game, but everyone's saying he should be good for the start of the season.
Give Henry a chance. Come
That
on,
dude,
get him in there.
I will never give up on Derrick Henry.
God,
so like, I
if you're
totally,
listening to this podcast,
I totally understand people. DeMarco Murray is going as like a RB1 in like the end of the second, end of the first, beginning of the second, depending on how big your league is. Totally get it. I think it's totally justified because their line's very good and he's really good. But I am much more comfortable waiting a lot later because earlier this season in the summer, Derrick Henry was going pretty high in drafts. He's still going in like the 6th round.
let me see.
He is going a little bit further now, and I am totally fine where he's at.
Are you only drafting Henry if you have DeMarco?
No, I've been getting a naked Derrick Henry, where it's just Mr. Henry.
I'll take Henry anyway. I can.
I'm just saying.
Oh, my God.
I am totally fine with just getting Derrick Henry.
Kids, please don't. Earmuffs.
Yeah.
Earmuffs.
Yeah.
Earmuffs.
But I think both of those guys are good where they're going. Wide receivers, I understand getting Corey Davis. There's Mike Clay from ESPN talks about how every wide receiver who has been drafted in the top 5 picks The worst they've ended up in terms of fantasy is wide receiver 17 at the end of the season. And that was Calvin Johnson, his rookie year. So I totally get the talent and the ability of Corey Davis. I also understand that Eric Decker has been nothing if not consistent his entire career, so I like him too. Delaney Walker looks really good. I mean, everybody in that, where they're going right now in the drafts, the entire Titans offense is draftable.
All right. So, in general, how do we feel about the Tennessee Titans?
I think they have the potential
I like them a
to
lot.
win that division.
Oh, yeah, man.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the Houston Texans. And if my other boss is listening, this is his team, the Houston Texans. And boy, do I hear about it all the time. But every time I see him, I would say, Dr. E, tell me about what are you guys thinking of that QB situation? Good Lord.
So, yeah, they just announced that Tom Savage is going to be their starter. Mm-hmm. I think that's fine. I think it's only a matter of time before Deshaun Watson takes over. But I'm in the belief that Tom Savage is a competent quarterback. I think he'll get the ball to DeAndre Hopkins. Outside of Hopkins, I don't trust anybody. I think it's easy to draft because somebody has to catch the football. So it's either going to be, I think it's Jalen Strong. Braxton Miller is the one that I think is my favorite. He's the converted quarterback out of Ohio, I believe.
I liked Miller. Yeah, I did like him.
I like Braxton Miller. He looked really good. But yeah, Jalen Strong, I think he looks really good. I would put more into CJ Fedorowicz with the injury to Will Fuller. I would put more into CJ Fedorowicz getting more targets.
That's tight end, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So that's who I'd be looking at.
All right.
And of course their defense, because their defense looked really good last year. Now, granted, they lost their cornerback AJ Abuye. He is now with the Jaguars, which is why I'm saying him and Jalen Ramsey on the same corner in the same defense. That's insane. But
Yeah.
if the Houston Texans cornerbacks can hold up, if you have, I'm forgetting his name, the defensive end, not J.J. Watt, Clowney.
Yeah,
Clowney
J.J.
and Watt.
Clowney.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Clowney
just
looked
the
like
thing,
he finally looked like the player they meant to draft first overall last year.
I do scary.
If him and Watt are both finally healthy, that is a scary tandem.
Hell, even
combination.
if they're like 80, 90 or geez.
So
Yeah.
I think they're a solid defense. I think they're like the fourth or fifth defense going off the board. I think they're solid.
That's pretty insane.
Yeah.
All right, so that's the AFC South. We're going to take a little break, guys. We're going to take a little bit of a break.
Yeah.
But let me stop and say again, if you guys want to, give us a chance. And even if you're looking to, maybe even hire us to do some of your social media work, some of your video, photo work, maybe even some audio work if you'd like, we're always available and ready, to take you all on. Anything you guys want to add about that, that'd be awesome.
As far as the audio stuff, I've been trying my hand. Maybe I shouldn't be so modest about it. I've been really trying to compose some original music.
Yeah.
And so as far as audio goes, we could offer some high quality professional microphoning, location audio recording, and then some kind of branding, with original recordings.
Yeah, right. And a lot of times I know we got a lot of these the jazz artists and stuff like that. They're always looking to record their thing. We're always available for that as well, even photo, video, as well. I can kind of talk to you a little bit about that. If you guys know anything about photo, video, we're 4K capability. We have state of the art equipment. We really do, especially our camera now. Our camera system is remarkable. That Ursa Mini. 4K, 4.6K.
Ridiculous.
It is absolutely ridiculous, the quality on it. But you should give us a follow at Crowd and Town Creative on Instagram. And you can go to our website.
CrowdandTownCreative.com.
All right. So we'll see you guys in a little bit.
You sound really good, man.
You
your
sound
mic.
really good
Yeah,
on that mic.
I need to get closer to mine, I think. I don't know.
Why don't you talk like a man? I forgot where I was at, but some old lady, I was like at a store and I was buying something. She's like, "Ooh, you got a nice voice." And I'm like, "Oh, can I just buy what I need, please?"
All right, guys, we are back.
Guys and girls, we're not sexist here.
We aren't. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And Lord knows all of Arthur's family's listening to this. At least we.
At
hope
least
so.
my mom. I know my mom
Yeah.
will listen to this.
Nina, thank you for listening. She'll probably be the only one at this point.
That'll be it. It'll
That'll
be
be
the
it.
three of us listening to ourselves and my mom.
And your mom. Yeah.
I can't wait to listen to this.
Oh Lord! All right,
All right,
We're
last
moving right
one.
along.
This is the
AFC North,
My favorite.
and we are going to talk about the Browns.
I am all about what the Browns are trying to do. They tanked it. They got a bunch of picks. All they're waiting for is the right QB. I think they might have gotten that in Deshaun Kaiser. He's looked really good this preseason.
Really good.
And he is starting this last preseason game, and there's a chance on Sunday that he could win that job. So I don't think there's no undraftable in terms of quarterbacks.
I loved his mobility.
His mobility, he's got a
oh.
sweet deep ball. Yeah. And I think with Kenny Britt there and Corey Coleman,
Yeah.
I think they're solid. And that there's a tight end there named Seth DeValve that everybody's been talking about. So I think they have some good pieces around them. They just need to land the quarterback. RBs, I love Isaiah Crowell. He's going as like a late round RB1, high end RB2. They spent so much money and investment in their offensive line. They got Kevin Zeitler from the Bengals for their right guard. They got I think his name's J.C. Treader from the Packers for their center, and they re-signed Joel Bitonio for their left guard position. They potentially also have one of like the top 5 or 6 lines in the league. And if Isaiah Corral gets a shot, I think he's going to be solid. If you're in a PPR league, Duke Johnson has gotten 50, 60 receptions every single year he's been in the league. I think they've talked about using him just like a wide receiver, as like a slot receiver. So I think he's worthwhile as like an RB2 in PPR, only in PPR.
Yeah.
But
And
he's a good
Crowell's
flex.
just been trending up.
Absolutely.
Every year, just trending
Absolutely.
up.
Wide receivers, I like Kenny Britt a little bit more. They paid him like a number 1 wide receiver. Corey Coleman's had a pretty rough training camp. They've even talked about a couple of the receivers that look better than him.
That's unfortunate, man.
Yeah, but I like Kenny Britt a lot. Again, Seth DeValve is another one of those tight ends like we've talked about, where you just wait the first couple weeks of the season, see how they go, and then that's it, and see if he picks up any steam. Don't touch that defense. It's on its way, but do not touch that defense.
Not there yet. So
Not there yet.
altogether, I guess the Browns are not the bottom of the barrel anymore.
No, and that leads us to the Ravens, because I don't know what's going on with Joe Flacco. If you find the audio, I just listened to it today on the NFL podcast. They asked their offensive coordinator, when will he be back? Do you have a timetable? And he gave one of the worst non-answers I've ever heard in my entire life.
And listen, this is also considering politics.
Oh yeah. I don't know what it was clearly one of those situations where a coach was like, I can't say anything that could turn into a headline, so I'm going to say absolutely nothing for 30 seconds.
And what did he say?
It was like, I think we're going to pick the right time, and when it comes and when that happens, we'll know.
So
he'll know. And
verbs and adverbs.
That's all it was.
It's a train wreck.
It's so bad. But anyway,
And the fake news turned it into Joe Flacco retiring. He's retiring.
that's it. Fake news.
He's out.
But if Joe Flacco misses any time at all, that team is in real rough shape, because Ryan Mallett has looked like absolute basura.
Never liked him. Never liked him.
I liked him a little bit, but he has looked real bad in practice. He looked really bad in both preseason games. They were already pretty talent poor until they made some trades and signed some free agents. They have Jeremy Maclin, who I think would be a nice addition. Mike Wallace is obviously their deep threat. I've always liked the potential of Brashad Perriman, but he had some flashes last season, but you're really just taking a flyer. Most of these guys you're taking a flyer on. Their tight end, they have Ben Watson. And the one tight end I really like that they had, and he had one catch last week in the preseason, Max Williams, but he's really young. He's another one of those tight ends you wait and see if something happens over the first couple weeks of the season. But their running backs are the big appeal to me. I like Terrence West a lot. He's looked really good in the
I like
preseason.
Terrence West a lot.
And if you're in PPR leagues, Danny Woodhead. Woodhead, he's dealing with a hamstring injury, but he can easily become an RB1 in that offense. There's no one else to throw to. There's no official slot receiver. I think he could catch 50, 60 balls easy in that offense.
Easily. You flex every week.
Every week.
Easily.
He's the safest flex in the league. So I think, that's all I'm really thinking about in terms of the Ravens. They always have a pretty good defense, but I think their offense has the potential to be so poor that you wouldn't want to do anything with their defense. So,
Yeah. I'm trying to find Woodhead on the ADP, and I'm going so far. Oh, here it is.
There you go.
5th round.
So if
Fifth
you're
round.
telling me you're in a PPR league, you can get 2 to 3 solid wide receivers, and then he's your RB1 or 2, I'm okay with that.
Eesh.
If you get a wide receiver 1, then you get Gronk, get a couple other wide receivers, and you get Danny Woodhead and a couple other players in that area, I think you're doing just fine in a PPR league.
And if Joe Flacco's back, Jeremy Maclin, 9th round. He's going 93rd
Yeah.
overall right now.
I think, again, really good value for all. Where they're going, Macklin and Wallace, I think they're solid.
I like it. What was that?
I just went live.
We're
just
working
to
here,
see,
man. We're
yeah.
trying to do something here, man.
I'm sorry. I just wanted
That
to
sounded
see
like
Facebook.
it looked like it sounded like an easy bake oven when
just
the
wanted
timer
to-
goes up.
I just wanted to see what Facebook Live did.
Dude, my sister used to have, so we had one, right?
Yeah.
She loved it so much. But Anthony and I used to just eat everything. Like, I don't even think she got a chance to even eat what she baked.
All right, let's move on
I'm
to
sorry.
the absolute most awful team in the entire league, the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Why are you calling them so bad?
Hate them.
I hate
the Steelers.
Undraftable.
everyone.
Everyone. And that's not true.
Actually, I was gonna say outside of their tight end, I mean, everybody is solid.
It's just
I mean,
ridiculous.
everyone talks about Ben Roethlisberger and his home road splits, how bad he is on the road. I mean, it's crazy.
true,
It's
yeah.
absolutely
Yeah,
crazy.
Those numbers are insane.
But I think with the potential of Martavis Bryant coming back, I think he's easily, if you wait on quarterback and you end up with Big Ben as your QB1, I think you're okay. I'd feel much better if you had him and someone else to pair him with. But I think he's fine. Bell, obviously, you can make the argument he's either 1 or 2 off the board, and that's it. He's coming. He already announced he's coming back September 1st to training camp. I know he's hoping for that contract extension.
Does it depend on PPR for you? Is Bell 1 in a PPR? Because of how much he catches.
No, David Johnson. I'm all about David Johnson. He's come out and said he wants to be one of the first players to have 1,000 yards rushing and 1,000 yards receiving. So if I hear that's what your goal is and that the team has said we want to try to help him get that,
David Johnson
I'll
all
put
the
it
way.
this way. In one of my MFL 10s, I had the first overall pick and I went David Johnson.
All right.
All right. That's
But,
good to know.
but Bell is right there, right behind him.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
without
by-
question.
yeah.
I mean, he has looked really good. He has more of an injury history, but he still looks really good. In terms of a handcuff, if you're looking for him, there's a really good feel good story if you want to look at it for James Conner. He's the guy behind him. He's looked okay. They actually say he's behind some guy named Fitzgerald Toussaint.
I remember Toussaint.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think Connor will take over eventually. And wide receivers, I absolutely believe that Brown and Bryant can be relevant. I think they were a few years ago before Bryant got suspended. In fact, in one of my leagues, I drafted both of them. I went Brown in the first round. I went a few other players, and then I got Martavis Bryant a couple rounds later.
Let's see. Where's
I am
Brown?
totally fine with that. I think they're, even with Bell back, I think they're always going to be a pass first team because that was always the big appeal with Bell is the fact that he catches so many balls. So I absolutely have no issue with where each, Brown is easily the number one wide receiver going off the board. And I'm totally fine with where Martavis Bryant is going because he is just an athletic freak. Jesse James, tight end for the Steelers.
The Browns.
Sorry. We've had a few beers.
Man, you really don't like this team.
I just do not like
This
this.
team.
I like Jesse James a lot. He is a big target. I think he's like 6'7" or something ridiculous. Wow. He is kind of slow, but he's their starting tight end. And thinking that productive of an offense, it could be one of the highest scoring offenses in the league. He could catch 6 or 7 touchdowns just by how big he is in the end zone. So, and their defense always looks good. Their defense looked solid last year. They added J.J. Watt's little brother, who has looked like an absolute monster in the preseason. Looks like they knocked it out of the park with that pick. So I'm totally fine drafting them too, because even though the Browns have looked better, if you're telling me you get the Browns and the Ravens twice a year, I think it's a pretty solid defense.
That's awesome. So, I have to ask, where do we put the Steelers in this division, Art? Seeing as that it's your division, I have to ask the question because it's your division, man.
You do know who else is in this division?
I know. That's why. That's
Okay.
why I had to ask that question because I have to get him on record to see if he'll actually answer it.
Not just the division, but the league.
League,
the
come
Steelers,
on.
the Steelers. Come on,
You
man.
can't say.
Based on numbers and how last season ended, the Steelers are the best team in that division.
Did it hurt?
Easily.
Did it hurt?
I mean,
Did it
hurt?
You know what? We shouldn't even talk. Let's throw the next team off. I mean, we're done.
Why are we talking?
We're done. Yeah,
we're
we didn't even talk
We're
about the next
finished.
team.
Yeah,
He just had the best team.
Yeah.
I hope you'll go
Yeah.
down.
So that
Thanks
brings
for
us-
listening, guys. But,
If you want to advertise with us, please give us a call.
Thank you.
Whatever, man.
Goodbye.
There's some really good talent on this team.
All right. So let's talk about the Bengals. Let's talk about
The Red Rifle.
My man.
My man, Andy Dalton.
So, just a
Andrew.
disclaimer for everybody: this is Arthur's team, and in case you've hung out with us this long, I hope you guys have. You understand how knowledgeable Arthur is, but I want to hear
Yeah.
his take on
This is
on
this is
Dalton.
where knowledge goes out the window and it's just emotion.
just straight up
from the
pure
heart. Yeah.
emotion,
No,
man.
no.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
We're going to talk about some facts.
Andy Dalton, first overall pick in your draft. That's where we're at right now.
Not. So I'll be completely honest. I used to hate Andy Dalton. I used to talk so much crap about Andy Dalton because I thought they could do so much better. I thought AJ McCarron could do so much better. But the more and more I look at that team, if Andy Dalton hadn't gotten hurt 2 years ago, they would have won their first playoff game.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with
I
that.
agree.
Yeah.
And that same season, he was a top 5 fantasy quarterback. The biggest question for this entire team is their offensive line.
Mm-hmm.
They let a Pro Bowl tackle walk out the door and a Pro Bowl right guard walk out the door. And they have their replacements, but their replacements have looked really bad. Now, the one smart thing their GM did was bring in players to offset that. Their first overall pick was John Ross, who's basically everyone's calling him the next Deshaun Jackson. So he's super fast. Whether you throw the deep ball or you get him a screen pass and he goes 4 yards after the catch. And regardless of the extracurricular things that happened with Joe Mixon his freshman year at Oklahoma, if that had never happened, people have argued that he should have been the first running back drafted this year. That he has Le'Veon Bell style running.
Material.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I've seen it in spurts in the preseason where he only ran for 5 yards, but he made 4 players miss on those 5 yards.
Yeah.
So given all of those things, I think Andy Dalton, if you're giving me a healthy AJ Green, Tyler Eifert, they're both entering this season completely healthy. John Ross, Tyler Boyd, who was a second-round pick last year.
Yeah.
Giovanni Bernard has looked really good in the preseason. I'm okay if Andy Dalton, if you wait on quarterback, they have a really good schedule. Actually, so their first 4 games are pretty tough, but after that, they have a really nice schedule. They have one of the easier schedules of all the teams. I think he could be a solid QB for you. And I hate saying that because I normally don't like Andy Dalton, but I think he could be solid for
As
you.
a fantasy.
I really do.
Yeah.
You know, it's especially with Eifert.
Yeah.
I love that guy, man. I do.
He's incredible. I'm really hoping they sign him in the offseason. But in terms of
as of right now, Eifert, 9th round.
yeah,
In 10-team league.
that's solid value for a potential.
Oh.
I mean, he was a league winner in I had a couple draft or a couple leagues where he was a league winner for you.
Oh yeah, because AJ Green, it goes without saying, he's your wide receiver 1 if you get a chance.
Right, but
Eifert,
I mean, he you know what? I forgot how many it was, but a few seasons ago, I mean, he caught something like 10 or 11 touchdowns.
oh man,
Running backs is the tricky part, I think, because with wide receivers, you know it's AJ Green, and then you're wondering, is it Brandon LaFell? Is it Tyler Boyd? Is it John Ross? I don't trust any of them.
yeah,
It's AJ Green, it's Tyler Eifert, and in terms of running backs, the Bengals don't have a good history of going with the best player that they have. They ran
So
Jeremy
frustrating.
Hill into brick walls last year, even though he looked terrible. Giovanni Bernard definitely looked better than him. Rex Burkhead looked better than him, but they still kept running him out there. And he's looked better in the preseason, but it is very evident, even though he's looked good, that Joe Mixon looks better.
yeah.
I have drafted Joe Mixon as early as the 3rd round, and I'm worried because I don't trust the Bengals to give him
Give him the ball.
the volume
Yeah,
that
yeah.
he needs.
Yeah.
In PPR, I see Giovanni Bernard like Duke Johnson. He's solid for 50 or 60 receptions.
Oh, yeah.
And plus he gets the carries. I think he's solid if you're looking for an RB2.
Oh man,
or a
plus you got
flex.
that upside of him breaking one off,
Yeah.
and just going for 50 yards for a touchdown.
He did
And
what
then
now?
Breaking
break one off?
But
I don't think
snap,
that works.
snapping one off.
Snap.
Snapping?
Is that how it?
Anything. And are there any other questions about their offense y'all have?
No, I mean, we wanted to be done with this a while
Yeah,
back.
yeah,
All right,
yeah,
all right.
yeah.
Okay, well,
Are we still talking about the? Yeah, we still-
before we end the show, their defense potentially could be really solid.
So what you're saying is that the Bengals are a trash fire,
That's
and you should
not
never,
at all what it is.
ever even think about like putting money on the Bengals
Yeah.
at all.
All right, just wait.
Against anybody.
If you guys want to have some real fun, come watch a game with us, a Bengals game.
Yeah.
And just watch this dude go through
It's
all the emotions
miserable
that
watching that
that the
team.
Red Rocket takes you through.
Anyway,
Wait, is it Red
but
Rocket?
Let me.
It's not the Red
It's
Rocket.
the Red Rifle.
Red Rifle. Oh,
Red Rocket is the San Antonio Spurs, Matt Bonner, and he's gone now.
That's not the Red Rocket. I'm thinking.
This show just got a hold. Are we still talking about fantasy?
I was trying to keep it clean, and then you went there.
Anyways, before you guys railroad me over here,
I'm sorry.
their defense. So they drafted a quarterback in the first round last year, and they also drafted a defensive tackle in the third round. Both of them got hurt and were out the entire season, and they come back completely healthy this season. They also have two guys that they drafted in the later rounds this year that everyone is saying have flash. Like they have no idea why people didn't draft them sooner. So if all of those three pan out, they potentially have three brand new young starters on defense, and that can make a huge difference.
That's
Nice.
great. So again, like you're saying, trash fire. Of a football team.
Whatever.
All jokes aside, I do like the Bengals.
You know what?
I really do.
And that's
man.
what I was about to say.
I
like,
really do.
I think the Bengals have a solid team. They could
It
be
all comes down to their offensive.
Yeah, right. They could be a contender.
Yeah.
They've got a really good schedule after the
first three or four,
Yeah. I mean, I've always felt like seeing them in the playoffs. Like last year, as an example, I thought they're going to get out of that first round.
Last year
Can I
they
put it
did
in
that.
terms
It was
I know
2 years
you'd
ago.
understand?
2 years ago. That's right. I'm sorry.
Dude, I know you'd understand this.
Yeah.
Them to me are like the Cowboys pre-Prescott
Yeah.
and Zeke.
Yeah.
Because
Exactly.
they just could not finish.
They couldn't put it together.
They just could not
Yeah.
put it together.
Yeah. They couldn't
Yeah,
put it together.
that's how
And-
frustrating the Bengals are to me.
And I think the Bengals, if they stay healthy,
The O-line.
they have a
That's
good
what it
run
comes down
at
to.
least at the division. I mean, yeah, you've got the Steelers in that division, but
Yeah.
you know,
I still predict the Steelers to win the division and the Bengals to make.
well, but here's the thing that I really am concerned about with the Steelers is Big Ben is just getting up there in age, you know.
He's talked about retirement already.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm curious to see how their season goes. I think they're going to be just fine. But yeah, I think the Steelers will win that division, and the Bengals will make a wild card.
So that's the AFC, fellas.
All right.
I think
it.
We
I
did
think
it.
we've made it clear that we really do like, as much as this hurts to say for me, if Andy Pettis is listening, the Patriots are going to come out of this the AFC.
Don't say it. Say it ain't so.
But I am going to put you guys on the record. Who comes out of the AFC?
Out
Out of each one, okay, I will say. Let me get my notes. It's very easy. I say the Titans will win the AFC South. Pittsburgh will win the AFC North. I'm going to go with the Raiders winning the AFC West. And, of course, the Patriots
In the East.
winning the East. In terms of the wild card, I think it will be the Chiefs and the Bengals.
Yeah. I think I kind of feel very comfortable with those predictions.
This one's easy. It's easy, right? I mean, those are the top four,
Yeah.
hands
The
down.
top four is easy.
Yeah.
It's after the wild card. I
It's
think
the wild card.
It'll
that
be
gets you.
it'll be either it'll come down to the Bengals, the Chiefs,
Bengals.
the Texans, and if the Jaguars get their quarterback situation figured
Yeah,
out, them.
they can be a solid.
I was
team,
gonna
too.
say if Flacco's still in there, I never count him out. I don't know why. You just
Yeah, Joe Flacco
surprises
is
you.
like that underdog that you always go for, man.
Yep.
All right, so that's it. AFC on the record.
Yeah, we
on
went
the record.
we went a little longer than we wanted to, but went through the entire AFC. So come on, give us a
Hey,
break.
give us a
We
little bit.
will,
Of a
our
break.
next episode, we're going over the NFC. We're trying to give you a little bit on every team before you hit your draft. So we hope we gave you some insight on all those teams.
Guys, be sure to follow us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook, go to our website crowdandtowncreative.com. There are links to all of those accounts. Guys, we're just getting started, but you know what? We have a lot to offer.
Yeah. And share our when we're going to put this up on iTunes, everywhere you can download it, Stitcher, all those good sites and programs, and please share that with as many people as you can. We appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
And if you have questions, you can tweet at me. I'm forgetting what my handle on Twitter is.
Good Lord.
I know. I am.
Give it to him. Hit the bricks.
Oh, so it's Art Aguirre LIF. So ARTAGUIRRELIF. That's my handle on Twitter. So you can, if you have any questions, hit me up there.
All right.
All right.
Dan, anything else? Sir?
No, that's it. Thanks for listening. I hope you guys liked it. I hope you got to the end of this.
Yeah, I know, right?
Shit.
Yeah, if you got to the end of this, congratulations. We really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
we do have a surprise for you, and it's... No, we don't have anything.
I was like, you got a surprise for me because I don't know what you're talking about.
All right. Well, that's Living in Fiction, AFC, all the AFC. I was going to say just AFC South.
No,
But
that's
no,
everything.
all the AFC except
Todo.
the Bengals, they're trash fire.
Todos, güey. Pero los Bengals.
All right. Well, thank you all for listening.
All right. Thank you, guys.